Thanks for joining us on Fox News at 9. I'm Lindsey Hess. A devastating scene at two churches in Egypt, what ISIS is saying and what we know now about the attack. And later on, a Springfield church completely trashed, where the suspects are now and how the church plans to replace all its wasted food. But first, severe storms making their way to parts of central Illinois. You're watching News Channel 20 at 10. I'm Lindsey Hess. Let's go straight to meteorologist Thomas Patrick with the details. Thomas. It all gets started at 5:30 here at the old state capitol, and many of the people who are here fighting against the immigration ban say they'll stick around for the rally and help urge Congress not to repeal the Affordable Care Act. We start with developing news tonight. A Jacksonville woman is dead after being hit by a train. Tonight, we are starting your First on Fox rundown with police looking into a stabbing at a popular deli on Springfield's west side. We have full Ice Storm 2017 team coverage of the weather forecast, storm prep, and what you need to do to stay safe this weekend. After President Trump's big legislative defeat on health care, the administration is looking to pivot to secure a win in the first 100 days. We're just west of 11th and Cook Street at this railroad underpass. As you can see, there's an extreme flooding situation, several feet of standing water, and the rain is still coming down steadily. In your health headlines, binge drinking seems to be increasing in older Americans. A new study shows men and women over the age of 60 say they have consumed 5 or more alcoholic beverages in a single day in the past year. One gentleman just left the headquarters here with one of these Trump yard signs. Now, it seems a little late for that, but he says Trump will be our next president and he wants a souvenir. John jury selection begins here in Springfield tomorrow. The trial was moved from Adams County to Sangamon County on a change of venue request. This after Lovelace's first trial ended with a deadlocked jury. First on Fox, we have full team coverage of Game 4 of the 2016 Fall Classic. Louis Del Rio is live in Chicago. Local Republicans who turned out here tonight appear to be relaxed. They're eating, they're laughing, they're talking, but I've talked to many of them and they tell me they're anxious and nervous to find out who will be the next president of the United States. They know what's on the line. The next president could shape the Supreme Court for generations. And right now, Trump and Clinton are neck and neck in the swing states of North Carolina and Florida. Every year, more than $150 billion is bet illegally on sports.
Oh, well then, our brackets, I don't know.
What brackets?
What brackets, yeah. Well, you know, everybody, this time of year, everybody that, even people that don't even like basketball, a lot of them jump into these pools.
Yeah.
So
even me, but I go for the $5 bracket.
$5 bracket.
Here on the northeast side of Springfield, the snow is still falling steadily as it has been the last couple of hours. As you can see, there's a thick blanket of snow covering the ground. Sometimes it's hard to be a Trump, especially if you're not even related to the Donald. Yeah. Both are considered to be armed and dangerous. And joining me now is State Treasurer Michael Frericks. Explain what unclaimed property is. Where does it come from? Investigators say the Mahomet police officer who shot a man last spring did nothing wrong. Yeah, John, the best of the best in Illinois livestock and commodities are being sold here to the highest bidder. And this mobile food cart has everything you need to get that done. Tonight, a committee made up of 3 Chatham trustees voted to recommend to the board that it ask Mayor Tom Gray for a public apology and his resignation. This is where President Obama got his start in politics, and so many of his supporters still live here in Springfield and have been rooting for him every step of the way. Gas prices here in Springfield are at about the same as the cost of a cup of coffee, just under $2 a gallon. And joining me now is Justin Allgaier, who's a NASCAR driver and a Riverton native. Oh! He was so close, but the experience obviously paid off. I need a little bit more practice, Vince. We're just 2 days away from the election, and if you're looking to avoid the wait at the polls, now is the time to vote. What you need to know before you cast your ballot. And Illinois residents are making the move to our neighboring state. What experts say Indiana has that Illinois just doesn't. Developing news in Pana, 2 young children are dead after a house fire this morning. You're watching News Channel 20 at 10. I'm Lindsey Hess. Let's get right to News Channel 20's Matt Wickos with the latest. Matt, more rain is headed towards central Illinois. Meteorologist Thomas Patrick is in the Weather Center with all the details. Thomas. After a historic presidential election, it's time to focus on our local leaders. Tuesday is Election Day, and there's just one more opportunity to vote before then. News Channel 20's M. Wynn joins us with how early voting has been holding up. M. Stay with News Channel 20 Tuesday night at 10 for all your election results. We'll be following the mayoral race in Decatur, as well as key races in Sangamon County, in the village of Chatham, Springfield's Ward 6 Alderman, District 186 School Board, and much more. Also, don't forget, you can get up-to-date information on our website, newschannel20.com, as well as our Facebook and Twitter pages. In your national headlines, Illinois' solar industry continues to grow despite President Donald Trump's work to reverse Barack Obama's Clean Power Plan. Solar jobs have increased across the state by more than 3,700 workers. They were added in 2016. Illinois now ranks number 17 in the country for solar jobs. Employment is expected to increase by another 5% this year. According to the Chicago Tribune, the report was released right before Trump's executive order, reversing rules combating climate change. President Trump is expected to sign a bill overturning some of your internet privacy regulations. And although some are worried about their privacy, a former Federal Trade Commission chairman says it's not a big deal. John Leibowitz says other privacy protections are still in place and that nixing the FCC rules will allow officials to implement more streamlined regulations. But some Democratic lawmakers disagree, urging Trump to veto the anti-internet privacy bill. It could be a big week for the White House. The Senate may vote on President Trump's Supreme Court pick, but that may not be the only headline. The investigation into Russian election meddling continues to dominate conversations. ABC's David Wright is in Washington. Keep your umbrella handy. More rain is heading our way. Meteorologist Thomas Patrick is tracking it all in the Weather Center. Hey, Thomas.
Hey, Lindsay.
Children who have experienced the loss of a loved one are learning tools to help them grieve in a healthy way. Staub Funeral Homes hosted the 5th annual Kids Good Grief Camp at Aaron's Pavilion in Springfield today. Kids ages 6 to 12 participated in activities to help them learn coping skills and how to express their feelings. Organizers say when a family loses a loved one, kids often get lost in the shuffle.
Kids always put on a brave face. They want to help their grown-ups, and so this is an opportunity for them to get what they need and not be brave for their grown-ups anymore. Just do what they need.
At the end of today's event, there was a tree planting memorial so the kids can return for years to come. Today, the Springfield BMX Club took a ride around Springfield to encourage the community to step away from video games and cell phones and spend time outside. Participants say many people don't know the club has been operating in Springfield for more than 32 years. Their ride started in Washington Park and ended at Riverside. Organizers say BMX is an easy and fun way to get your family up and off the couch.
One thing you hear all the time is there's nothing to do in Springfield. Well, there's plenty of opportunities to do things, and a lot of times it don't cost any money to do it. Just get on your bike and go.
The BMX Club is holding a free meet and greet next Saturday at the Sherman County Market from 11 to 1. Heading to sports, David Coy joins us, and the Cardinals are hosting the Cubs on opening night.
I know you've been watching it between commercial breaks, obviously.
Of course. The nation's top legal experts believe up to 100,000 U.S. prisoners are innocent. The issue of wrongful convictions has been thrust into the spotlight recently after the wildly popular Netflix documentary Making a Murderer took the nation by storm. A Springfield woman claims her father was wrongfully convicted of first-degree murder, and now she's fighting for justice.
Anyone that knows him knows he loved his brother. And there's no way that he intended to do this.
But that's not how the jury saw it. On November 20th, 2010, Denny Pettit was convicted of first-degree murder for killing his brother Tony.
They were best friends, absolute best friends.
Born to an amateur boxing coach, the Pettit boys had fighting in their blood.
My dad had went all Army into boxing, and he was Golden Glove boxer. He was at one time a 3-time champ, which was not heard of.
Denny fought in Vietnam and had a wife, a son, and a stepdaughter, Kelly.
Me growing up, we weren't around my Uncle Tony very much. When my parents got divorced in 2005, he was hanging more with my uncle.
Uncle Tony, who Kelly says was known for his violent demeanor.
I knew about my uncle's reputation. Everybody knew about it. And, you know, he would walk into a bar and the whole atmosphere would change. You could just feel the tension. And I mean, he was tough.
On March 30th, 2009, Kelly says Tony tried proving just how tough he was.
My uncle was being very derogatory and name-calling and being very demeaning to my dad.
Kelly says her Uncle Tony's behavior turned violent.
He just wouldn't stop. He just kept beating him, and that at the time, my dad, he literally didn't know what else to do, and he reached for an object and just swung and hit my uncle, and it stopped him, but it also ended up killing him.
That object was an oxygen tank, and Kelly says there was only one witness there that night, a man who was living with Denny at the time. Kelly said the man called 911 while Denny attempted CPR on his brother and covered him with a blanket on the couch.
The paramedics arrived and the police, and my dad answered the door and said, "I accidentally killed my brother."
Denny was arrested and taken to the Sangamon County Sheriff's Office, where Kelly says he was interviewed for 90 minutes.
In that hour and a half, he said, "I didn't mean to kill him 64 times. I loved my brother 17 times. I can't believe I killed my brother 38 times. I'm drunk 11 times. I was defending myself 10 times. He also stated it should have been me, and I wish it would have been me."
Denny went on trial in November 2010.
There was no forensic experts. There was no one testified about his post-traumatic stress disorder from being a Vietnam vet. No one testified about how drunk he was. No one testified about any of the forensics of where my uncle was on the couch compared to what the state was trying to say.
But Kelly said the trial went wrong. Her dad sentenced to 30 years behind bars. Kelly claims it was a wrongful conviction.
He's wrongly convicted of first-degree murder. There was no intent here. He didn't wake up in the morning and say, "Hey, I'm going to kill my brother today." He simply tried to stop his violent brother.
She says her dad should be granted a new trial for several reasons. Ineffective assistance of counsel.
Our attorney had a hard time even getting their names straight. He would repeatedly refer to my dad as Tony. I mean, it was a train wreck. It was an absolute train wreck.
Prosecution overreach.
In the closing argument, the prosecutor, literally closing argument where we cannot have a rebuttal. We can't say anything else. This is the last thing that the prosecutor is going to say to the jury. And he says that Tony was laying on the couch asleep. The damaging thing about that is that nowhere during the trial was it ever any evidence ever presented that Tony was asleep when it happened.
Unreliable forensics and jury misconduct. Kelly says the jury foreman turned out to be on the same pool league as Denny and Tony's other brother.
And we found that not only did he play with my Uncle Troy, he played with our star witness, the bar owner, Joe Bentley. He played on the jury foreman's team, not against him, on his team together. And he also played with our the nephew that my uncle and my dad were with, who also testified.
And remember the man who witnessed the fight? His testimony was never heard. He was in poor health and died before the trial. According to court documents, in closing arguments, prosecutors said, "You're in a fist fight, even if it happened during a fist fight. He takes a deadly weapon to a fist fight? No, he's guilty across the board. He was not in imminent danger of death or great bodily harm."
From the photographs and from the evidence in the case, it was apparent that the victim was basically laying on the couch, apparently asleep, when his brother beat him in the head with an oxygen tank, and then did admit that to the police.
5 years later, Kelly still pores over court documents, looking for anything that could help get her dad out of prison.
It can consume you, but you're fighting for someone's life. I mean, you really are. I mean, no, he wasn't sentenced to death, but 30 years for a 60-year-old. He's going to die in prison.
The Pettits say they not only lost Tony that night in 2009, they lost Denny too.
And once they are convicted, there's almost no way to get them out. I mean, it's a horrible thing, but I do not want this fight to end with him dying in prison.
We took a look at both Denny and Tony Pettit's criminal records. Denny's shows no history of violence, while Tony's includes several cases of domestic battery and orders of protection against him, as well as one case of resisting a police officer. Almost $5 million. That's how much the state's ag department says it owes vendors from last year's state fair. That comes as the state's gone almost a year without a budget. And no budget means no checks for those who worked the 2015 fair. This is the list, those still unpaid from the 2015 state fair. News Channel 20 obtained from the Department of Agriculture. There are more than 850 names, individuals and businesses ranging from nonprofits to livestock judges, people who put in the work and haven't reaped the benefits. This parade kicked off the 2015 Illinois State Fair, a 10-day celebration that started while Illinois had gone a month and a half without a state budget.
Speaker Madigan, you know what? I was elected by millions of people. He's been elected by 17,000 people. Why is he there blocking what we need to do to reform and improve our great state of Illinois?
9 months later, it's almost time for the next fair, but there's still no state budget, and hundreds of people who helped make that fair possible still haven't been paid.
I'm a little bit furious about it. I feel a little demeaned, a little humiliated, and I'm embarrassed for my state.
Jeff Cunningham is a local musician who says he's played at the state fair for decades and never has he had to wait this long for a check.
It's humiliating. It makes my profession feel like it's insignificant.
Cunningham's bandmate, Shane Bumgardner, is still owed $1,100 for playing at the 2015 fair.
Definitely not playing there this year. You know, they asked us to play, and we just said no. If you can't pay us for last year, why would we want to sign up for that again?
Those who haven't been paid, Rex Evans, a Springfield man who's still owed $208,000 for manure hauling, and Waste Management of Illinois is still waiting on its check of $200,000.
Why are we having a state fair? Every night on the news we keep hearing that the state is in the most dire financial situation possible, so why are we spending money on this fair? They closed the museum down under the same logic, so I ask, why are we having a big party?
We asked the state ag department how Illinois can hold a state fair with no state budget. We were told, quote, the state is required by statute to hold a state fair. The department uses the Illinois and DuQuoin State Fair as a vehicle to aid in the promotion of our state's #1 industry, agriculture.
I think it's a good act. The state fair is, as I said, part of our heritage.
To avoid another backlog of unpaid bills in the future, Brady says the state fair needs to work towards becoming self-sufficient.
I've sponsored legislation that creates a foundation which could raise private dollars to help support the fair. There are other sponsorships that could be used, selling off building, naming rights, and other things.
And Brady tells us those still owed money from last year's fair were contacted by the Department of Central Management Services about its vendor support initiative.
To go in and draw down 90% of what you're owed. There are vendors who will pay you for that. The short side of that is you won't be able to collect the interest. They collect the interest then, and then you'll get the remaining 10%.
But it's too late for Southeast High School's baseball team, who worked in the barns last summer to pay for new uniforms.
It's sad that the kids were penalized. They worked very hard. They worked many nights out there cleaning the manure in the barns.
The money for the team's jerseys ended up coming out of their parents' pockets.
Came home filthy, dirty, and for what, you know? Just sad.
And hurtful, according to Debbie Ross. She says her band has played at the state fair each year for more than 3 decades. But Ross says they won't be back for 2016.
This is what you want to do. You look forward to doing this. You know you've arrived when you get the chance to play the Illinois State Fair. It's like, yeah, you get to play. So it's going to be not good not to be able to play.
Promises that were broken for more than 850 people who worked the 2015 state fair.
Shame on the state of Illinois. Shame on them for their unprincipled government and increasing this circle of suffering that now keeps growing and it just keeps taking more people with it.
Every major media organization in Central Illinois is also owed money from the Department of Agriculture, including more than $8,000 for News Channel 20. Now, when it comes to the Vendor Services Program, that's to help vendors who are owed $150 or more. The State Ag Department tells News Channel 20 they've already started paying those owed less. Vince, Governor Rauner says he's ready to get to work. And those who attended this morning's inaugural ceremony say he has a lot of work to do. But just hours into his new role, he's already bringing hope to those eager to see some change.
Please welcome Governor-elect Bruce Rauner.
The man looking to shake up Springfield takes the stage, bringing new leadership and hope to the people of Illinois.
I think there is change coming, and I'm excited about it.
I'm excited for a new direction, new leadership.
Taking the oath as governor,
The duties of the office of governor
also means becoming the leader of a state plagued with a fiscal and ethical crisis.
Now the hard work begins because he has to sit down with lawmakers and forge compromise solutions.
We're kind of sometimes the joke, the butt of the jokes of late night comics that our governor served 2 terms, so it's bad. But we're on the way to change. We are already on the way of change.
Last year, we lost more people than any other state in America.
The state's first Republican governor in a dozen years says he'll work to make Illinois a state where people will want to build their businesses and raise their families.
Realtors, one of the things that we'd like to see is companies coming back to Illinois instead of leaving. And so hopefully that'll happen and we'll be able to enjoy that success.
And those attending the inauguration say the first step towards a successful future for Illinois begins with Governor Rauner.
I'm a father. We have 2 young children. I think it's important that we recognize the decisions we make today impact that next generation, and it's time to make the right decisions.
The thing that was most encouraging is the idea that he's going to govern for the next generation, not the next election.
Many of the people who were in attendance at the inauguration were parents and grandparents, and they say they hope Governor Rauner follows through with his plan to fix the state's education system. Live in Springfield, Lindsey Hess, News Channel 20 at 5.